Hi, this is Joelle, your podcast host. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are recording this podcast on unceded Indigenous lands. Tiohtià:ke, Montreal is recognized as the custodian land of the Danycka Nation. This serves as a reminder that this history, which is often forgotten or neglected, enabled us to be here. As a white settler, this is especially important for me to recognize the role my ancestors played in colonization. That feminist hopes to create a space for dialogue, exchange, and critical reflection. With that being said, I invite you to think critically about your institutional and personal relation with the land on which you stand.
Look at that feminist. Oh my god, she's so annoying. Yeah, I know, she talks too much.
We can still get lovers if you this one. Keeping the car, it's a legend. When you want to when you confident, say hi, just say hi to my independence.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to
Hi,
another
squad.
episode. What did you say?
I said hi, squad.
Hi, squad. Okay. We're a squad now.
If you don't want to be part of my squad, you have to let me know.
Okay. No, I like that. I like the idea. Come back with a name. Thank you. So today, as you saw, we're joined by Daniela.
Hello,
And
everybody.
we're also joined with Danycka.
Hi.
So today we're doing a special episode. We're going to be talking about ADHD and its relation to feminism and how sometimes ableism is very present in feminism. So yeah, I'm going to let Danycka introduce herself because it's like our first guest that is not part of our contributors. So
My name is Danycka. I am a Concordia University student, and I live in the South Shore.
Same. Same.
I live. Oh no, wait. I already said that. I mean, I got diagnosed with ADHD. Well, really young. I think it was a school teacher that said to my mom, "Hey, your daughter might have ADHD," and my mom didn't believe them. Because, like, we live in a white neighborhood and we dealt with a lot with the school. So I changed school because of that. And my mom was like, oh, I don't believe these white folks in that school. So, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go and pay $1,000 to go see a professional. And they're going to tell me if I have ADHD. And they said, yes, she does. And so... she found professionals like an orthopedagogue. I had a neurotherapist, and I learned how to, because I also had dyslexia, but I was diagnosed like later, like at 13 with dyslexia. But I got a, wow, what was I saying? Oh my God. I was with a. What was I saying? What?
With a therapist?
Yeah.
Speech therapist?
Not a speech therapist, a neurothérapeute and
Orthopedagogue?
Orthopedagogue. So I would see her all the time, and I got professional help. And also, because I was in a different school, because it was not like those traditional schools like in Quebec, it's called une école alternative. So it is built for like a kid that has ADHD. Because you do move a lot, you do new things, you have projects. So it's like a perfect environment for like a kid with ADHD.
that's great. Did you find it helped you a lot or?
Well, I was not the best at school for other reasons, but I could say that we were not always sitting down, teachers taught us strategies how to read. There were games like for math class. It was not always sitting down and the teachers just saying, okay, this is what we're doing. We interacted with the stuff that we had. We even had like objects that we used to like calculate it and see it with our own eyes.
Okay, yeah.
So there was also a lot of professionals, so I had the access to that. So when I say like I have ADHD and I had all these services, I always say like, because where I am economically, I had access to all these services that most kids did not have, and that would be way more difficult for them. So there was that. you know?
Like privilege in that sense that you got access to that.
Yeah, because not everybody had access to this. If you don't have the money, you will not get the access to get all the professional help, and also having the professionals at school all the time.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, because that school is not like paid for by the government, right? You said your mom had to pay for you to go there. Or?
That was for to go get
The
tested.
professional. Okay.
Yeah, because she did not trust the teacher.
Okay.
She
Yeah.
was like, no. But like for the school, it's paid by the government.
Okay.
But it's also like the parents are also involved in the school. Okay. So it's like
it's really good though.
Yeah. So there's like a committee of parents that actually are involved, and they create activities, new things for students. We even had like every Friday we had activities, and we would do like, there was cooking, there was skating,
cool.
there was I did sewing, I did comic books. You know, there's like activities that you do, and they change. I think every month, like you have 3 choices, and they put you on a spot. You know?
That's really cool.
So there was always something new to do, and it was always learning. Like they taught you how to like cooperate, to be autonomous. So I think even despite the school being really white and still racist, there was still some stuff I could take out of it that was really helpful with like my everyday life.
Without like getting into too much detail, like when you say like they were racist, like.
Okay, so we can get into it.
I mean, I don't want to put the school on the spot, but like...
No, I don't care, because I'm like, yeah, they're racist. I live like in the South Shore, like the countryside. So, you know, like les Québécois, like
the
souche, campagne, tu sais, and my first school, it was not like that. It was not alternative. It was very much... Same. They were like the same type of white folks that you would see in Alabama. Like, they're really not that different.
Actually, parentheses, I actually read an article this week that said that Quebec is the Alabama of Canada.
Yeah, it is.
I was fucking shocked. I was like, oh, holy shit, okay.
Yeah, like when you really leave, like the South Shore is big. So like people assume, oh, you're from Brossard. I'm like, no, I'm not from these places. I'm not from Longueuil either. I'm from La Campagne, you know, like if a farmer put like manure, it's gonna smell like shit everywhere in the neighborhood. So
holy shit, okay.
So yeah.
I got that.
So they were racist, just like the white folks in the South. Same thing, not that different. But that school was like more explicit. You know, they did do stuff that were very much like, okay, so I'm invisible. You're not gonna see me. That's trash. I go home. I don't want to play with y'all. I don't like y'all. Whatever. So I had no choice but to change school, and that's when I went to the École Alternative, and they were like, "Yeah, we're liberal. We care about differences." And I'm like, "Why is it so white?"
Yeah.
I have a question. Was it like how am I was it at the South Shore? The École Alternative?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, well, I'm gonna just say the school.
You can bleep it out worse.
Yeah, you can if you want to. It's called L'École des Trois Sources. Okay. Like, yeah, it's alternative and all that, but I know in the early 2000s, like, Chateauguay was it was not like super white because there was still a lot of black people, but because you were in a section, I was in a different section in French, it was mainly white. You know, all the black kids and the brown kids were elsewhere in other French schools. So, like, alternative school was very much like white. So I go in, these white kids clearly doesn't show that they've seen black people before.
Yeah.
So,
at least in real life, you know?
Yeah, it really shows that they've seen them on television. So I'm just like, wow, you really don't know how to speak.
Yeah, and if they've seen like black people on television, they've probably only seen like the stereotypical representation of black people.
Or like they commented on my skin tone, on my features, and I was like,
wow.
Okay, like I really had enough. I was just like, okay, I had enough. And they were like, oh my God, like you have such big lips, and I'm like, okay. I really don't have time for this.
Wow.
But yeah, and it does it creates an environment where everybody's racist, and even if they want to play this game of like, oh, everybody's like liberal and we care because, you know, we vote liberal, and I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
It does create an environment for like black and brown kids that are neurodivergent and that need help and that don't want to, because what happens is they're gonna see me as a project of like, oh, look, we helped her, we helped the poor black kid, and I'm like, don't put your white savior on me. I actually need help. I'm not a charity case, and I don't want to be treated like I'm your little project. Just give me the service, and I'm going back to my seat. Like, I don't want all of this. This is shenanigans. This is complete chicanery. You could keep it for yourself. You know, so there was that. There was the fact that, like, you know, when you have ADHD, I'm hyperactive, impulsive, and inattentive. So my hyperactivity starts up, and, you know, black kids get punished more. So teachers were more like concerned and be like, hey, you're acting up. And I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like,
do you feel you were treated differently than the other people?
Yeah, because the white kids were saying some stuff where it was really out of pocket and the teachers didn't do anything because, well, bias came into it. Even though they want to act like, oh, we care, it's like you don't. You don't, you know? So all these ideas of like what it is to be black and how they saw black people just showed in how they speak casually about me in the room. And like comments out of pocket, like I don't know how many times our parents need to come to school and talk to the school, be like, hey, hello, like,
do something.
why is the child saying this? Like, where did they found this? What is this? And you know, it doesn't make it an easy situation because now, you know, I'm hyperactive. I was more social when I was in Montreal, but like when I'm in my town, I'm more closed off. I don't want to speak. I'm quiet and I don't ask for help. And the teachers constantly said, your daughter doesn't ask for help. She can ask for help. But I'm like, but are you going to treat me properly? Like, are you going to treat me like I am below you? Or are you going to treat me properly? And even the smartest kids in my school would treat me like below me. And I'm like, no. It's not because I don't have good grades that you could treat me like someone else. You need to treat me like a person. This is unacceptable, you know?
Did you find that, like, sometimes the other students, if they were to say something to you that was offensive, racist, or any of that, would they sometimes, like, blame it on their disability, or?
No, they would not blame it on their disability. I kind of would beat their asses anyway. Like,
I love that.
So I was just like, no, you're not going to be racist because I'm going to beat your ass. And even if I was going to go to the TS, like, my parents are going to talk to the school and say, like, oh my daughter's going to beat your ass anyway. Like, that was unacceptable.
It's so cool that your parents were so, and I'm not saying this because I'm surprised. I'm just saying this because I had a completely different experience with my parents, that they were so supportive and they were backing you up, like, with your like looking for help for your disability and looking, you know, to find the right fit for you. You know, that's really cool.
Yeah, like my parents really wanted an environment that was like, you know, great, because I know, like, from immigrant parents, like, the childhood is not the best. Even though my dad had a really good relationship with his parents, there was still some stuff that he did not want us to have. So like, my mom and my dad worked on, like, being better parents. There was still some, like, a little bit of, like, problems, you know, because when they went to parenting class and read parenting books, it's great, but it's made for a neurotypical child. So you know, there was still some stuff, like, it was still going to be rocky. I had meltdowns. I was more hyperactive. My mom don't have that much energy because she has, like, not a good immune system. So, like, you know, sometimes it was stressful, but, you know, my parents still wanted to have, like, found solutions so they could understand me a little bit better.
Yeah. And so you got diagnosed, like, pretty early on, right?
Yeah.
Okay. do you remember a time where you, like, before you were diagnosed, where you felt like something was, no?
No, I was in daycare, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow.
I have a completely different experience than you. I was actually diagnosed when I had just turned 20.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I spent most of my school career life with ADHD. My story kind of starts a little earlier. I was actually a teacher actually did raise a red flag to my parents when I was maybe like 6 or 7. My dad got extremely offended. He said, and my poor dad, he's like, my child is not dumb. And yeah. And because in my culture, like, it's that ADHD does not exist. When I told my grandparents that I had ADHD, they were like, what's that?
Yeah, like...
like, what? And my grandmother was a teacher for 40 years. And she was like...
So they were like, what's wrong with you?
Like, the fuck is that? Like, so I just spent, like, I was just a hyper kid, but I had great social skills because I was an only child. So I had to fend for myself.
Okay.
So my teachers liked me enough that they would help me where they saw that, like, there were, you know, the lacune, you know. Mm-hmm. But that's, now that I realize that wasn't the right thing to do. It was more of like raising a red flag, like, you know, she's not advancing as much as the other kids.
Okay.
And it happened to me in every single grade. Then I moved here in 4th grade. I did classe d'accueil, which is like when you come here, you learn the language.
Yeah.
So you only do French and math. That's all you do. You don't do science. You don't do history. You don't do English. That's all you do.
You don't
for the
do
whole year.
history? That's weird. I
don't
thought
do
they wanted you guys to learn, like, the whole history of Quebec. No? Okay.
You only do French and math. And I was lucky enough that I was failing, and my teacher was nice enough that she helped me, and I actually didn't, because usually kids who do classe d'accueil, let's say you do 4th grade in classe d'accueil, you repeat your 4th grade.
Okay.
But
yeah.
in a regular class, so that you learn science and history and all that stuff. But I was actually able to, like, cheat the system, and I actually jumped into 5th grade without redoing my...
With an undiagnosed ADHD.
With an undiagnosed ADHD. So then I went to for high school, I went to private school, which was extremely white, extremely competitive.
Yeah.
With an undiagnosed ADHD. And I had only been here for like 2 years. So my French was not the greatest. Mm-hmm. So for high school, every single time that I had a hard time, they would associate it with, well, you know, she has been here for less than 10 years. Her education was not the same. She's like, her French is not the same. So they would always associate it with, like, the language. Like, say, for example, for math, when you had the long problems to do, they were like, oh, maybe she just doesn't understand them when she's reading.
Oh my God.
It was me.
I think that I need to work out. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
When I was reading them, they'd be like, well, maybe, you know, she just doesn't understand them. And every time that I would bring a I wasn't a bad student.
Yeah.
Like, I was maybe like an 80 or 85 average student. Like, I wasn't a bad student.
That's really good, actually.
I was pretty low than you.
But I just wasn't achieving at the level my parents were expecting me, because, you know, I was a first generation immigrant, and they were like, we came here so that you know, you had a better life, and, like, you're just here pulling 80s and 85s, like, you know, yada yada yada. So, and I was terrified of being the kid with, like, because obviously when you're not doing as great as your parents think you should be doing, your other peers, like, I was in the lower average in my classes. Imagine, like, so
it was very, like,
very competitive, like,
very good.
very grade oriented. Like, even your teachers, when you didn't do so good, they were like,
you can do better.
You can do better. So I was terrified, because there were kids who were diagnosed ADHD, and they would take their exams in other classes, and since I didn't know I had ADHD, I would hear what other kids would say when they were not there. Like, oh yeah, of course she got a 98. She went to another class, and, like, she had more time, and, like, so she
They
had
always say that.
Yeah.
tutoring and shit like that. So I was like, I questioned myself. I was like, do I have ADHD? But like now I'm scared to find out because I don't want people talking shit about me. Like I was so terrified of like being the kid that like that got pulled out of class or like stupid looking back at it now. But I was so like scared to like, because I was already different. Like I was already the kid who like wasn't from here. I had a little accent when I would speak in French or English. So like I was like, I don't want to be even more different.
Yeah, you don't want like another label.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So I finished high school, and then I went into CEGEP, to a private CEGEP, which it's honestly, it was the worst experience of my life. If I thought high school was competitive,
Yikes.
this is like another level. Like
Another level, yeah.
This is where, and I'm not gonna say the name of the school, but like it's where like politicians send their kids to schools, like
Yikes.
high CEOs send their kids to that school, like people with money, you know. And my parents, like they weren't like, we were like middle class, like, you know, normal folks. And it was very surreal to me to like be in this environment. And I like, my CEGEP experience was horrible, that by the end of it I finished with terrible grades, an R score that could have gotten me into university, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go to school anymore because I was like, if this was CEGEP, I can't even imagine what university is gonna be like. And I had like a breakdown. Like I was having like severe anxiety. Like I couldn't sleep. Like my grades were slipping. My parents were like so disappointed in me. So I couldn't even be in school or go home. I was like, oh shit, like where do I go?
Yeah.
So I finished my year, and my mom was like yapping about something, like about school and like about how like she's like so disappointed because I didn't have any plans for university. And I start crying, but like crying in a way that she has never seen me cry before. And she's like, okay, but like what's wrong? Like, so then I tell her, I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like I just told her like, I don't know what's wrong with me. So then she's like, okay, well, let's go to a therapist. So I went to a therapist, and she's from Mexico, and she was actually an orthopedagogue in Mexico. And then she's like, you know, I was telling her my school story, and she's like, why don't you bring me your notebooks next time you come?
The therapist?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she's like, honestly, I think you might. She reviewed my file. She reviewed my, like, what I would tell her. I would be like, I can sit down at a table for 10 hours and I get no work done. I start like 5 projects and I probably write my name and like a few sentences, and then I get lost, and then I don't do anything. Mm-hmm. For 10 hours. Imagine sitting for 10 hours. I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do anything except for that. And she's like, you know what? I think what you're telling me, like, it sounds like ADHD. And I was like, ugh. It's like, no, it doesn't. And she's like, yeah, like, you know, you should go get diagnosed. But then the test is like $1,000. When you're an adult, I think I paid $1,500.
Okay.
Because I was diagnosed as an adult. So it's a longer test. So I had to save up. It took me like 5 months to save up the $1,500. I went to do my test, came back that I had a severe ADHD with issues with impulse control and anxiety. Wow. So, yeah, that was maybe like 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't have plans for university. I actually didn't know what I wanted to study. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And I was prescribed medication. Medication changed my life. Mm-hmm. But I haven't tried any like therapy for like
it's like a test that they
yeah
for like all the way to like 7 to 13 years old. That's when she told my mom at 13,
okay.
Your kid is dyslexic. And I was just like, not again, not another problem. Yeah. But it was already fine because, you know, I already did see an orthopedagogue, so it was okay. And while since people don't know what like dyslexia is, because everybody asks me like, oh, do you see stuff like à l'envers?
Really?
Yeah.
They
and I'm
ask you that?
Yeah, a lot of people do. And I'm like, where did you get this? Because it's not true. It's because I cannot differentiate words with sounds. So like certain syllables are very hard to differentiate for me. So if it's not phonetically like
How it's supposed to sound.
yeah, I will not be able to like give you what you want me to answer, because I don't know. I have no clue. So I have to separate the syllables and, you know, get it from there. But at my elementary school, I already found those tricks already.
Okay.
So it was never that hard. It was the reading part.
Okay.
Because I was not at the same level as everybody else. And so I needed to read a little bit more so I could be at...
Same level as everyone else.
yeah. But that gave me anxiety to like read in front of people, be like, oh my God.
same.
Like read out loud?
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, so she don't read. I'm like, girl.
Yeah.
It's not my fault, it's my dyslexia. Give me a chance, you know? And sometimes the teacher would be like, yeah, that's a great sentence, Danycka, but like, that's not.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't embarrass me.
Yeah.
Just give someone else the book. Like, I never asked to read in the first place.
Yeah.
But yeah, high school was different though. Because elementary school was quiet. Because, you know, all the racism was happening, I just shut down and was like, I just want to go home. I come here, I want to go home. I don't want to be with y'all. So, yeah, in high school, I was like, okay, now there's black and brown kids. I got friends. I can hang out and do all that. But I was more hyperactive, and that created...
yeah. That created like more issues.
Yeah, and you know, I was taking my ADHD pills, but not
All the time. How you're supposed to.
Yeah, not all the time. So I would just act up. I would bring stuff late. There was like a thing like les manquements. I don't know if you had that at your high
like
school.
attendance.
We
and,
would get like my points taken off, and if you had like a certain amount of points, you get detention.
Yeah, like I had a lot. Like it was almost around 100 every year.
Oh my
so
God.
like it's just not a good system for someone that has ADHD,
Yeah.
because I forget a lot of things. I forget my agenda, I forget my pencil, I forget my homework, I forget a bunch of things. Why would I need a manquement? Like, why punish me for forgetting things?
And that's the thing. Like when you have ADHD, you're defined as like I was defined as lazy. Like when I would tell my parents, they'd be like, "Well, you're just lazy. You're just irresponsible."
Yeah.
Like you're just not responsible because you forgot your agenda, or you forgot your pencil, you forgot your homework. Like you're either irresponsible or lazy, or you're just not trying hard enough.
You know?
Yeah.
Like they all like I was always like, oh, she's disruptive. She does a lot of things. It's true. I was bored. Like
Yeah.
Like also, like how can I explain it? Having the hyperactive placement with it, it's really hard because you just cannot fit in a setting where everybody sits down, everybody listens to the teacher, we take notes. I can't do that. I get distracted, I get hyper. If everything is so stimulating, I'm like, I'm done with this. I want to get the hell out of the class. Like, I'm done with you, girl. Like, we out. So they be saying to my parents, like, Danycka talks a lot. And I'm like, because I'm disengaged. I'm done.
Same.
Like, when my brain is done, it's done. I want to do something else. And so it's really hard to go back to the work, do it, sit down, and do it like everybody else. You know, like when you do like classwork and, for example, in math class, your teacher says like, okay, so I taught you everything. Now do the work for the rest of the class in silence. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I will not be doing my math homework because I was not doing that. I was on my phone. I was on YouTube. Or I was on Forever 21 looking at stuff that I wanted to put on my wish list. I was drawing. And the teacher was like, show me your work. There was nothing there.
Or you show them your Forever 21 card. There you go.
No, I needed to hide it because I was not allowed in class. But like I would show it and they're like, Danycka, you didn't do anything. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And it pissed off a lot of teachers. I had a lot of problems with the teachers. And mind you, they're white. So they already had an idea with all of the black kids around us, like all of the black kids in the school. They already had an idea when we were in middle school. Our school system is really strange because I live like in a small town. There's like école du quartier, so we just call it middle school.
Yeah, I have that too. Actually, in my neighborhood, it's weird. They don't have like just primary school and high school. They have like also like a middle school, which is weird. Yeah.
So it's like 2 years. You're like in a small school.
Yeah.
It looks like jail.
Oh,
honestly.
yeah. My sister has that too.
Yeah,
It's weird.
It really looks like jail. Like,
Oh my god.
like,
It sounds so discouraging for everyone who like.
no, but like seriously, it was a teacher that said, your school looks like a juvenile like
Detention center.
Oh my god.
I'm like, you know what, you're right.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's really sad.
You know?
But
So-
you know what's crazy is that now that Danycka's talking, I am thinking like, well, I'm not thinking. This is a proven fact. ADHD looks actually very different in guys and in girls. It looks like night and day because on girls it reflects a lot more in the like you're unengaged, you can't concentrate, you can't really focus on your work, where guys you're extremely hyperactive. In girls it can show hyperactivity as well, but you're mostly unengaged with the work, which is why you do certain things. But for guys, they're just, you know, the phrase boys will be boys, it's because they're like super hyper and super like, you know, talkative and like disrupting the class. Girls are mostly like daydreaming or like they're like like not paying attention or like Danycka said, like they're drawing or doing whatever because they're unengaged.
Yeah.
Yeah, which makes me think. I did a little bit of research before coming here. I don't know how good it was, but I found a lot of like statistics and studies that shows that there's a very undiagnosed ADHD in girls more so than in boys, and my reason actually for thinking that is from what you said, Daniela, is that if you're a boy and you're like disrupting the class, like you're disrupting not only like your education but other people's education around you. So I feel like that's why they're gonna be like, okay, like he has a problem, like we need to fix it now because he's disrupting the class. Okay, he has ADHD. Okay, like that's diagnosed, right? But if a girl, like you said, is just kind of daydreaming and not paying attention or being unengaged, she's not disrupting the rest of the class, really. She's just, it's a really like, she's might be putting her own education at jeopardy because she's not, you know, doing the work that she's been asking to do, but she's not disrupting the rest of the class. So it's almost like the teachers or the professionals are going to be like less likely to like see that sort of behavior as ADHD and as something that needs to be diagnosed and as something that needs a solution, potentially medication, because they're just like, oh no, she's like you said, like she's lazy or she doesn't want to do the work, you know, that they're going to find like something else as an excuse because it's not disrupting the whole class.
And it also shows as, well, at least for me, and I've talked to other girls who it's the same. You get extremely frustrated with yourself, which creates like episodes of like
low self-esteem,
yeah. Severe anxiety, performance anxiety was really big, at least for me, and also like emotional distress. Like I would sometimes, out of frustration, like I would bottle it up so much, I would start crying for no reason. It's like, oh well, she's just emotional. She's just as an emotional teenager. Yeah. She's just a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even worse, they would blame it on your like periods or something.
Yeah.
Like, which can I just say?
Or like she's just hormonal. Like she's getting
hormonal,
used. Like she's getting used to like all of these hormones and changes, and that wasn't it. And it really, people think that it only affects your school life or your work. It affected all stages of my life. Relationships, like my first relationship, so many things that went wrong, or so many things I would say that were like, that is just so like such like an ADHD thing. Like it wasn't my fault. I just didn't know how to like, you know, or like impulse control.
Yeah.
I had such like, that was where most of my issues lied still today. I have severe impulse control. especially for food as well, like a lot of girls develop eating disorders because of that, because they binge, because they have no impulse control, right? So they, and it happened to me. You binge out of anxiety and out of stress, and since you have no impulse control, you can't just be like, okay, no, like I'll have a glass of water, or like I'll have a banana instead. Like you'll just eat it, and so like eat so much. And so those are also signs of ADHD. Like,
yeah, it really fuck up your diet a lot. You know, I didn't even know. It was during the quarantine that I found out, oh, so I have a binge eating disorder. Wow, I didn't even know, because in my head I'm like, yeah, every Friday I would buy a bunch of stuff and eat and go work out.
And then you'd feel like crap.
Yeah,
afterwards.
and I'll go work out and be like, oh, look, I ruined myself. Great.
Yeah, and like you think it's normal.
Yeah, and I was like, it was literally a teenage girl saying, look at my fat ass eating for a day.
Yeah.
And everybody in the comments, because it went on Twitter, was saying, that's a binge eating disorder. And I'm like, oh, wow, let me actually research.
So, yeah.
And I was like, oh, so I had a binge eating disorder? This was not even normal to begin with.
Yeah.
You know? But also because I'm like a black child, there was other things too, because already the school already saw, okay, black kids, they're disruptive, they make noise, and we were making noise, but it's just like we were not.
They're like, it's part of the culture, like it's not, they wouldn't think of anything.
Yeah, or they were like, oh, you guys are always making the noise. It was always like we were so demonized in our middle school. It was like, okay, but what do you want us to do? To the point where they wanted to put a rule to like stop black boys to bring like their hairbrush, because at the time there was a hairstyle that was like very popular in
where you would put your hairbrush in there,
and they wanted to ban it, and I'm like, it's none of your business, girl.
It was disruptive. I don't get it. Like,
it was disruptive.
It was disruptive because since it's a mostly white high school, when a kid would get there with like a brush in their hair, people would be like, oh my god, and they'd be distracted by it. Happened in my school too.
It's not even distracting.
It's like so fucking stupid.
It's fucking stupid.
I think it's just finding excuses.
Yeah, it's really finding excuses. And now being a child that literally is so disengaged, that is disrupted. I was disrupted in class, and I'm a girl. Like, I'm seen as a girl because I'm non-binary, but like I'm seen as a girl. So that creates like a stereotype. It's like, oh, so you're not ladylike. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so you don't want to go. I like to draw. Yes, I like to do all of that, but I like to do other things. Like, I'm not one-dimensional, and it was very annoying to be punished all the time. And like, teachers were always insinuating that I was dumb. And I'm just because of my grade, I'm like, girl, I'm in a French school. Like, that's not my first language. I never even want to be here. And you know, like Quebecois Souche, they already had stereotypes with black people, and it was, and also a bunch of stereotypes of like Caribbean black folks, African black folks, Arabic people. I was like, okay, now, what type of environment do you want to create? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
After that, you understand why we don't like y'all? Like,
Do you think it was like layer after layer? And
it was
kept, like,
it was very much layered.
And when you add, like, at least for me, like in my house, when you add like the element of disability that you can't see, a disability that, you know, it's not something that you can actually see, parents also get like confused, and like the culture, they're like, that's not, like, the amount of times my mom pulled out a chancla on me because I couldn't figure out like the math problem that we were doing. Like, so then you're like, holy shit, like, where do I fit in? Because now at home, like, you know, my parents are telling me that like I'm like, you know, dumb, or like that I'm lazy. But then when I go to school, like, it's the same thing. Teachers are treating me like shit because I don't look the same as everybody else. I don't talk the same as everybody else. I don't know for you, but for me, like, I had, like, most of my friends were also, like, they were Arabic, black, like, we were such a small group of people that we would just all hang out together.
Yeah,
because
it was the same thing.
Because we just didn't, like, it was like, a few white folks, but like not really. And then there'd be like, you see like the Greeks and the Italians and like,
Yeah.
But
like
also
the cliques forming.
yeah, cliques,
Like-
very clicky.
We didn't even want to hang out with the white kids because
Neither
like
did we.
they didn't make
Neither
it
did
even
we.
fun. And when I went to like the bigger high school and all these white kids were there, I was just like, okay, no. And after that, in this like secondaire 4, because it was like the other école de quartier that was coming, and they're from Mercier, and I used to live there. Now that place, now you really are like in a Mississippi or in a Missouri.
Yeah.
It's very much, you're gonna see pickup trucks and mullets, okay?
Oh, wow.
You're gonna see
No.
stuff like that. You're gonna see them like drinking beer excessively. Like, it's just annoying. So
Do you see incest as well, or no?
I wouldn't even be surprised. Sometimes I wonder with other black kids, we're like, yeah, there might be incest happening. So you see all of this happening, and you're just like, okay,
Where do I
don't-
fit in? Like,
it's not even where do I fit in. I was so
Like, is there
so-
anything different than this? It's
I was like,
yeah.
I'm tired. I'm
Yeah.
tired of all of y'all. Y'all
tired of all
are
of y'all.
so ghetto. Get out of my face. Like, this is enough. And I was more disruptive. And on top of that, I didn't really take my pills like that because it was not working for me. And I don't know, because like my mom is going to watch, so I don't know if I can say certain things. But I did misuse my...
meds.
yeah, my meds, because I knew it was giving me more stimulation if I used it like cocaine.
Oh, but you're okay. So sorry that I interrupt, and this question might sound stupid, but that when you, because I'm still kind of new to this whole thing, the pills that you were prescribed, were there for short term like attention or for long term?
Oh, I didn't take the time to check, but it was more for like a stimulant for like
For like quickly?
yeah, dopamine. So
Got it.
So I could be concentrated more. So I had these pills when I was like 14, and I misused them. And I didn't know in my head. I was like, oh, but it's my pills.
Yeah.
it's helping me. Yeah,
It's
you're
helping me.
thinking,
Like,
yeah.
let me open it. Let me put it in the juice,
Yeah.
you know, and it'll be fine. And an adult told me, like, if you do that, that's regular drugs.
Oh, wow.
And in my head, I was like, okay, well, we're going to continue.
Yeah.
So I continued. And when I got older, I realized, oh, so I was high all the time. I was intoxicated in class, and I was
Okay.
even more disruptive because that gave me another level of dopamine that I never had.
Okay.
So,
It went almost like the other way around. Instead of helping you,
yeah.
like, yeah.
Because people really think, oh, okay, no, ADHD is just like you're disruptive and all that. But like when you have hyperactivity,
It looks so different. It's like it's like you're out of your body. I don't know how to explain
Yeah,
it.
like-
It's like an out of body experience.
you could easily dabble into like very dangerous territory because some people really think it's just you talk too much. No,
Nah, fam.
no, because you could really go into drugs, be alcoholic, and there are some people with ADHD that I saw that were alcoholics.
Or with impulse control, that plays a lot with the hyperactivity. Like
Yeah.
I remember right before getting diagnosed, like I would just be like, let's go, like y'all, let's go. Like we were hiking, and they'd be like, don't cross, and I'd be like, y'all, let's go. Like, and it'd be like, it says don't cross. Like, yeah, but somebody must have crossed it to put it there. Like, you know, it's not that like I would
Okay.
put myself in such dangerous situations, like not even maybe physically, but also emotionally dangerous. Like so many stuff that now I look at and I'm like, holy shit, like Jesus must have really put his hand in there, because there were multiple times where I could have ended, like my story could have been very different.
Yeah.
In a lot of situations. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you look at it that way as well, but like for me, like hyperactivity and impulse control, they were like going like hand in hand, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, same with me, because there was like, so in my town, even though it's a cute suburbs and everything, like Chateauguay, people are aware that people have drug problems, alcohol problems. So you saw that all around, and you were just like, I was just like, okay, like let me not go into that. But it could kind of be very easy to
Dabble.
yeah, have fun with opioids, have fun with like cocaine, because cocaine was talked about a lot in my school, and there was maybe some people doing it, I don't know, but they were talking a lot about it. I know for alcohol, like everybody was doing alcohol, everybody was drinking it. Some people were drinking it all the time. So, you know, it created, you saw some stuff. I saw some stuff that were very much, okay, there's an issue here. There was like also CPS sometimes that were coming in. There's some kids I know that went to jail. So that was like a very hostile environment in middle school. And it was just not a great environment overall with the racism and all. So you just want to like go somewhere else. So I went to the other school. It was calmer, and it's just, it was still racist, like always.
Jesus. Like you can't escape it.
Do you feel like, for example, if you would have been to a school, because I'm not trying to relate my experience to yours because mine was completely different, but I know that for me, even for high school, I say that it was very predominantly white, but I was also in the middle of Montreal in Onsic, and even if it was a private school, like we were still pretty diverse. Like we were a pretty diverse school. Do you think that if you could have gone to a school that was a little more diverse, you would have found your place a little more, and you could have maybe felt a little better? Do you think that would have helped you?
Yeah, you know, but also because, okay, so there was black kids, there were brown kids there, but it was most likely in the English school that there were more black and brown kids. And going to this French school didn't feel inviting because they were already making fun of our culture, you know, making fun of Arabic people, Africans as a whole, Caribbean people. They were all, when people found out like, oh, she's Haitian, she must be doing voodoo, and it's like, it's not a bad thing, but they demonized it and said, oh, I'm evil and all that stuff. And I was just like, I don't understand, like you're being annoying or like fetishizing my culture, because I know like Haitians were like the majority, and a lot of the time sometimes they would fetishize it, and I'm just like, don't even talk to me, please. Or some white girls would talk to me about like having mixed race babies. I'm like,
Oh, please stop.
Holy shit, damn.
like I don't want to know. I don't care. So being in this environment and not being fully engaged and being sick of it, and also it shows in my face, like I'm just sick of it, and the teachers don't like me. It just
it was a mix of everything, I think.
And having bad grades, because my average was like below 70, so I don't even know how I got into college, but I got in. But in senior year, I just said, fuck it. I don't care. I'm going to do what the fuck I want. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. Because I was so disengaged. And it makes you feel kind of a little bit isolated. So you just see right through the bullshit of everything. And like how social norms, like how people socialize. And you're like, okay, why are you guys even doing this? This is ridiculous. But anyways, I'm unbothered. I'm going to continue what I have to do and go home.
I wish I would have had that type of attitude. Like, I think since, like, this is going very deep, but, like, since I left my country at such a young age, I never really had, like, an identity. Like, I think I said this in one of the podcasts, like, I think I actually found myself, like my identity, what you're supposed to do when you're like a teenager and finding yourself. I did that when I was like 21, you know? Okay. Yeah. Because I always wanted to fit in. Like I never had that. Like I always wanted to be liked. I always wanted to be accepted. I always wanted to be like, not pick me girl, but like,
like to be,
but like to be liked. Like I wanted to like my friends to like me, and I wanted to like, you know, to have a lot of friends, even like, you know, I knew that they weren't the greatest friends, but I wanted to have a lot of friends. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to, you know, and it's not. I think if I would have actually like looked into my issues and really gotten to know myself, I wouldn't have waited so long to get diagnosed. Yeah, and I wouldn't have struggled so much later on.
Also, I think it's really related to like older folks with ADHD. They're people pleasers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I was not.
Oh, I didn't think about that, but
Yeah,
yes.
they always say like they people please a lot, and I'm like, no, I'm not a people pleaser. They didn't like me. I called them out on their bullshit, and I moved on. Just because I got diagnosed with ADHD, I knew what was gonna happen. I knew the disruption already, so I just said, damn if you do, damn if you don't. I don't care. I don't have time. You know, like it's already depressing being in an environment like this, and always being insulted, and the teachers do not do anything, and they want to say like, oh well, we care about racism and everything, and you have a kid that's neurodivergent and you don't help. You're not a helpful teacher. You're kind of violent. You know, because these teachers they didn't say directly to my face, but they insinuated that I was dumb. And I'm like, what? I'm not dumb. You're a bitch, but I'm not dumb.
Even like you said earlier, our school system is so fucked up in the sense that like you isolate the kid that has, for example, in like a regular school, you isolate the kid that has the issue and you take them out of class. Or like they don't do the exams with everyone else. Like for example, one of my nieces, at the moment, she was diagnosed with ADHD. And she has a computer in class, but she's the only one.
Yeah, that was the same
so
with me.
she felt like she came to me because I told her, I was like, I have it too, you know, like it's not, you know, because I wanted her to see like an adult has it and like, you know, everything's good. And she's like, yeah. And she came to me crying the other day and she's like, I just feel like kids always laugh at me because I have the computer. Like they call me stupid. They call me dumb. Like, you know, like, kids will be kids, but at the same time, adults shouldn't put kids in those type of situations. Like, there should be another way to help them.
Yeah. It's like they always use that term, like, special needs. Like, oh, like, you're gonna need, like, special, like, attention. And I don't like it because
it's like pointing the finger. It's like,
and
look.
it's like, you're special, but, like, not in a good way, right? When they say, like, you're special and, like, special attention and, like, needing something, it's like, you need more, and it's almost like you're not doing enough. So, like, we have to provide for whatever it is that you're not doing enough for. It's like a compensation thing that I really don't like. But I think that our society has put that narrative on, like, disabilities. And
like, if we even go into depth about this, because the school system doesn't even cater properly to all different types of kids, like, not only kids that learning disability maybe have a mental disorder and all of those things, or even like physical disability, because my school had stairs, okay, we had elevators, but you know, if you didn't have a disability, like physically, there was not that much that the school could do for you, you know? So it's very much like society's view on people with disabilities that has to change. Parents educating their children, okay, this kid has ADHD, let's really look into depth about ADHD, because
and helping them.
Yeah, because it's very different. There's also emotional dysphoria. If the kid always feels rejected, which I always felt that way, you feel this type of depression and feeling like lonely and invisible, because the slightest insult could really hurt your feelings. And if people do not listen and do not care about kids with ADHD, it doesn't give a good environment for the kid to open up and even trust you. So if you want to be ignorant, there's gonna be a consequences to that kid. Saying like, oh, she needs a laptop, yes, that's great. I have dyslexia, that's great. But how come the kids are still thinking that I'm dumb? Or they're calling me the R word? Or like, you know, they're saying, oh yeah, but your ADHD is your superpower, and that comes
Really? Is that so?
I was like, oh wow,
where's my cape?
Oh, thank you. And this is where I was watching like a video essay about it was inspiration porn, and how people with a disability in Hollywood, they always put movies where the kid has a disability, a learning disability or something, and instead of it being the character, it's like, we're doing a moment, we're doing a statement, we're doing an inspiration.
Yeah.
It's not about the character with autism or ADHD, because not everybody's gonna have the same kind, and it's not gonna show the same way, but it's a symbolism.
Yeah.
And they get an Oscar for it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, ADHD is a superpower. And I was like, no, I live with it. That's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
I think that we've seen that in the news a lot too, when a kid with a disability does something exceptional and it's like, oh, look at this. This is going to be like your inspiration of the day. Like, this kid did this and he has, or she has that disability. It's like, why do like regular people need to like get this sort of inspiration and like feed off of people's stories?
Because basically I saw that in another video essay, because it was talking about euphoria and Rue being a drug addict.
Okay.
Basically, she said people like to put like a conditional like value onto you for your humanity that we could strip away if you do something wrong.
Okay.
So like, for example, when she was talking about Rue's a drug addict. They want to give all types of reasons why she's a drug addict. And after that, if she does something wrong, they strip away and dehumanize her. It's the same thing for, like, people with disability. Is if we don't follow your social norms, we get demonized and we get pushed away. And I always gotten pushed away constantly. So it didn't even give me, I didn't even want to. Even now, sometimes I'm like, I don't even want to participate in the workforce. I don't want to participate anywhere. Not
Fuck
because
capitalism.
I'm lazy.
It's hard. It's hard. Like I recently got a job. Sorry that I interrupted you, but I recently got a job, and not recently, like December. But I went for my physical. I had to do a physical for some reason, and when the doctor saw that I had ADHD, she was like, "And you're gonna do this job?" Like a doctor, and she was like, oh, and you got hired, do they know that you have ADHD? And I was like, well I clicked that I had a disability. Like, it's not like, I clearly made it through the process. Like, I don't think it's gonna affect. And then she's like, well, do you have your file on you? Luckily, it was my last day of the semester, and I was handing in an assignment, so I carried my laptop with me, and I have it on my laptop, and I showed it to her. Wow. And she's like, so you're gonna do this job? Do you feel capable? Like, do you feel like you can? And I feel like if I didn't show her the ADHD diagnosis, she would have definitely called my employer and be like, nah.
Wow.
A doctor, like a full-on doctor.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to ask you guys to kind of wrap up is, like, how do you guys deal with it today? Like, I know you said you're in university right now. Like, do you think it's better? Do you think it's worse?
No, because of the pandemic, I'm not that stimulated in my brain. So it's very much, I'm bringing a lot of things late. The teachers understand, though, so it's okay. But it doesn't give a good work environment. It's harder for me to clean my room. Mm-hmm. That's also a problem with ADHD. Cleaning your room, and it gets worse if you're very depressed. So, and on top of that, like, I don't work. My parents pay for everything. So even me thinking about going to the workforce, I just get so disengaged because I'm like, I don't want to participate because I don't want to deal with the constant abuse that I dealt with at school. I just want to be at peace, left alone, and live my best life, you know? So it's always this constant stress of, like, I know I will not enjoy myself. So what am I doing?
It's almost like not looking forward to the future and, like...
Yeah, kind of. Because I'm trying to, but... To be honest, because I dealt with so much, and specifically in a predominantly white neighborhood and school, like, I don't want to do much, you know? And it's not that I'm lazy. It's very much I am not in a space right now to really want to participate. I'm just studying right now, and that's it.
Yeah. What about you?
So I think that after the semester is over, I'm going to go back to therapy because I think that ever since I got diagnosed with ADHD and I started taking my meds, I was like, okay, the problem is fixed, and I'm overworking myself. I took 5 classes a semester. I work full time.
Wow.
And it's not a 9 to 5. Like sometimes I finish at like 10 because I have calls with Australia, calls with
girl.
So, and I've gotten to the point now in the semester where like I have to hand in a bunch of stuff. I haven't cleaned my room in forever. And something that also happens with ADHD is that you can't, like, something that helps me out a lot is that I can't really be in the same environment all the time because then I can't really do much. So I feel like I can't study at home. Then I'm like too overworked and tired, obviously, to like even think about starting like schoolwork.
Yeah.
So that I definitely want to try to find a balance because I think that I thought of it as like a minor problem, but like it really takes over your life. Even my mom was talking to me the other day. She's like, "Why do you take your meds every day?" And I was like, "Cause if I don't, like, I don't know how to function." She's like, "Well, I don't think that's normal." And I was like, "Well, it's just either that or like," because she's so new. Also, like, poor, I feel so bad. Like she really tries. She tries a lot more than my dad. My dad only sees the final result of like I was getting like C's and D's in college, and now I'm getting A's, and so he's like, okay, you're fixed, like, good. But it's not that, like, it and then she's like, well, we were talking about that, she's like, when you're done with university, do you think you're gonna keep taking them? And I was like, either that or I find a therapist that gives me some type of like help on how to cope without the medication, because I don't see myself not taking it. Like, I don't know what that's gonna be like. So I think it's a constant work in process. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think you need to be aware of it. Like, it's something that needs to be present. Some people are gonna think it's stupid, but like, it's not part of your identity, but it's part of who you are. So you need to be okay with that, and you need to find a way to help yourself. So,
do you guys think that it's kind of caused because of our society? It's so much like based on being productive and like, you know, this like toxic productivity that we always like. I know, like, for me, like I've never been diagnosed with ADHD. I don't have a disability, and I can go through a day like pretty well without taking any medication. But, you know, even me, sometimes I feel like this toxic productivity hurts me. The other day, I wasn't working that day, and I was supposed to, you know, I have a free day. It's like, oh, you're supposed to use that time to do homework and, you know, advance like my work, and like my room was a mess, and like I could have taken that time to clean it, you know, whatever, because I wasn't working. So, but I stayed in bed all day and I didn't do anything. And at the end of the day, I felt like shit.
Because you didn't do anything?
Because I didn't do anything. And it's like, normally, like, I wouldn't feel like this, but I feel like it's that mindset of like, oh, you need to be productive all the time, and you need to always be doing something. And, you know, you need to have like future plans for your future life. Oh, if you don't have plans for your life in the future, you're seen as like not
irresponsible.
Almost. It's really toxic, I think.
I would say, like, well, capitalism kind of ruins everybody's vibe.
I love how you said it's like, it just kind of ruins their vibe.
It ruins everything. So, like, that's why when I'm like, I don't want to participate in capitalism. I'm lucky that I have parents that, you know, they say, if you just stay in school, we will pay for everything. You don't need to work. So I'm like, okay,
that's so
fine.
Nice.
Fine, I will do that. Because thinking about just getting a minimum wage job, I'm just like, no, I don't want to. I'm really not in the mood.
Capitalism, you are uninvited to the party.
For real. So it's just, and now there's coronavirus and everything. And
on top of that.
And we're going to have like it's going to be worse than the Great Depression. I'm like,
no thanks.
I don't even know what to say because, okay, and now what, you know? And I don't even know. Well, I know what I want to do later in life. I want to be an art therapist, but I know it's going to take longer. I'm going to be like done school in my late 20s. But just thinking about all of that, it just becomes very depressing, and knowing that society does not cater to you because capitalism does not cater for the marginalized folks. Only people that are able-bodied, heterosexual, straight, that are white, so specifically white men. So it just doesn't give that much. You want to, but sometimes it's gonna be hard. Yeah. And sometimes I just want to break.
Actually, I had this thing, and I don't know if it's trauma, but it's this whole thing that like my parents would always be like, we're paying for your education for you to like get these grades, like really. So now for university, I decided that I was going to pay for it all myself.
So that you don't have this pressure.
So that I don't have this pressure. And like they're not like, I don't think they'll put pressure on me now because I'm an adult, and they always tell me like, if you want to stop working, we support you 100%. Like we'll pay for everything. But it's just kind of like to prove a point that like I just don't want to be like, if I want to drop a class, I'll just drop it. If I fail a class, I failed it. Like, you know what I mean? It's that type of thing. So
is it almost like you can feel that you don't have to owe them something of like having good grades and not failing classes because they're paying for it?
Just because it adds to like my stress and anxiety, that my performance anxiety. It just really adds to it. So I just prefer to have control over that. Also, that I've noticed with my ADHD is that I have a really hard time letting go of control.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very I'm a control freak at 100%. That's terrible to say, but if something is not under my control, I just feel like it's not gonna be good. So I don't know if you have that too.
I don't have that, but my mom sometimes like is a little control freak, and because my parents pay for school, they want me to have good grades. So it tends to be like I learn how to lie.
Okay.
No, and they always used to tell me, this is so toxic now that I think about it, but they would be like, well, it's like you're a horse and you're in a race, and we're betting on the horse.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Like we're betting on the horse.
Oh wow.
Because the race is like coming here. It's like a metaphor. They came here and like, they want to give me a better life, and like, like they're putting money on like an investment on the horse, and it's like, well, Jesus, fuck,
it's
like
a very stressful metaphor.
Just rather not,
Yeah.
So yeah, I just finding a balance. I just think it's the right idea for everyone.
Yeah,
I think go ahead.
I think sometimes we are really hard on ourselves just because of capitalism and neurotypical people knowing how to better adapt, and that we're not sometimes mentally flexible. So it's a little bit hard for us to like adapt with change. And for me, especially because I'm in university, I'm like, okay, I'm in arts education. That's great, but I want to be an art therapist. I don't want to be in a school. I will not go back to high school. I don't want to be a teacher.
That's so cool. I've never heard that of art therapy. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. So I'm like, I want to do a job that is, yes, I'm going to work hard for it, but I also have like, it's on my own time.
Yeah.
So I want it to be relaxed.
Lastly, I wanted to ask you guys, like, what advice would you give to someone listening right now who is struggling with ADHD, who might think they're struggling with ADHD and they're not diagnosed yet? What advice would you give them?
I would say there are so many YouTube channels that they could watch that gives full information about ADHD. I think her name is How to ADHD.
I love her.
Yeah, so she's very informative. She has so many videos, and there's so many more. If you're like ADHD with autism, ADHD with like dyslexia.
Or anxiety.
Yeah, or depression. There are different kinds. There are different kinds of YouTube channels that people could watch. to really understand ADHD a little bit more. There's even doctors that explain it in detail, in like what is ADHD. There's even I forgot what is the name. It's like a article or something, but it gives so much information for it. Is ADHD attitude or something? I forgot the name.
I mean, I'll look for these sources, and they will be like linked down below. So if you are listening right now, just check the description box down below, and it's going to be there, all the resources.
Did I cut you off?
No.
Okay. This is so awkward. I was gonna say, if you are diagnosed with ADHD, or if you're about to be, or if you're about to do the test, I think bringing the people who are closest to you, whether it's your partner, your parents, your siblings, just bring them. That's what I did. I brought them to the doctor's office with me so that a professional explained it to everyone, just so that everyone's on the same page. I think also it's never too late to be diagnosed. Like I know a lot of people who are like, oh, maybe I think I have it, but now I'm too old. Like it's never too late. It's never too late. Like even if you don't want to take medication, like it's something that might bring you peace, because I think it's like, I don't want to say it's like a silent killer, like not a killer, but it's like a disability that is so quiet sometimes, and it can be misrepresented with like other stuff, that sometimes finding out what it is exactly might bring you peace. So it's never too late. And I think, finding the right fit, maybe medication is not the right fit for you, maybe a certain medication is not the right fit for you, just always like it's a trial and error, and it's okay, and it's not the shoe's not going to fit the same on everyone, and that's fine as well. Today Danycka shared her story, I shared my story, but
and they're completely different.
It could be different from someone else's. Like I have found that ADHD is one of the can you say it like a disorder. It's a disorder that it's so different on everyone.
Yeah.
So it's okay. Like even if you think you might have it, but you're like not sure, because when you talk to other people who have it, it's not the same. It might be different on you. So you don't lose anything by getting tested and checking. So yeah.
Also, like if you're in school, there is many services. I know in university and college, you could go to the disability center and they will help you, to give you extra time, help you. Like you just explain it to the teacher, and the teacher, I hope they understand, because it's your education and they shouldn't be jeopardizing it.
Yeah, and I think most teachers want you to see, like they want you to succeed, and they want to see you succeed. So I don't think they're gonna be like, no.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for the insights and the tips. And Daniela, I'll see you in another episode. And Danycka, thank you for coming. It was really nice having you and having your perspective. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes.
And if you are listening or watching, I hope you enjoyed it as well. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
See you.
Bye.